Admiral Ryan Tucker stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Indomitable, watching the largest fleet in human history prepare for their final mission. Around him, ships from every surviving human colony waited for the order to attack the Zephyrian capital system. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we have confirmation from all squadrons. 200 ships ready for the assault." Tucker nodded. It was a pitifully small force compared to the thousands of alien vessels protecting the Zephyrian homeworld. But size had never been humanity's advantage. Their strength lay in doing the impossible. "Captain Mitchell," Tucker said into his communicator, "are your raiders ready?" Sarah Mitchell's voice crackled back from her fighter squadron. "Ready as we'll ever be, Admiral. My pilots know this is probably a one-way trip." "It doesn't have to be," Tucker replied. "We're not here to die. We're here to give the galaxy choice." Light years away, on the Zephyrian capital world, Supreme Commander Vixdala faced the greatest crisis in her empire's history. The archive minds, the preserved consciousness of conquered species, had done something unprecedented. They had united against their captors. "We demand release," spoke the mind of Emperor Calx. "The humans have shown us that freedom is possible." "Your empire is built on the graves of our civilizations," added Queen Zilara. "We will no longer serve our conquerors." Vexthala's crystal form flickered with confusion and anger. "You are preserved forever, given eternal existence in perfect peace. What more could you want?" "The right to grow," answered a new voice. It was the collective mind of the Terran Alliance, the first human prisoners the Zephyrians had captured. "The right to change, the right to choose our own mistakes." War Commander Zixtaran burst into the chamber. "Commander, the human fleet has been detected. They're approaching our system with their entire remaining force." Vexthala looked at the tactical display. Such a small fleet against the might of her empire. It should have been laughable. Instead, she felt something she had never experienced before. Fear. The battle began at the edge of the Zephyrian system. Human ships scattered in all directions, using every chaotic tactic they had learned during 3 years of war. Admiral Tucker's plan was simple in concept, but impossible to execute. They would fight their way to the capital world and deliver an ultimatum that would end the war one way or another. Captain Jake Morrison led the first wave of attackers in his ship, the New Horizon. Around him, human vessels exploded under alien fire, but for every ship lost, the survivors pushed deeper into enemy territory. "Jake," called Dr. Lisa Chun from the science station, "the chaos weapons are working. Their defensive systems can't adapt fast enough." It was true. Every human ship was broadcasting random interference patterns that made Zephyrian targeting systems malfunction. The alien superior technology was becoming a disadvantage as their computers tried to process impossible data. Colonel Amy Foster commanded the ground assault teams. Her mission was the most dangerous of all. While the fleet fought in space, she would lead Marines to the surface of the capital world itself. Remember, the war had been raging for 2 years now, and War Commander Zixtaran was growing desperate. He stood in the command center of his flagship, staring at reports that made no sense. Human resistance was supposed to be broken by now, but instead it seemed to be spreading. "Commander," reported his intelligence officer, 3 more systems have joined the human rebellion. Species we conquered centuries ago are declaring independence." Zixtaran slammed his crystal fist on the control panel. "How is this possible? These species were completely pacified. They had no desire to fight. The humans are teaching them, sir. Showing them tactics we've never seen before." This was the nightmare scenario. For 1,000 years, the Zephyrian Dominion had maintained order through superior technology and predictable conquest. Now the humans were proving that determination and chaos could defeat order and logic. Captain Sarah Mitchell led her raider fleet through an asteroid field, hunting for Zephyrian supply ships. Her vessels were ugly compared to the beautiful crystal. Ships of the enemy, but they were deadly effective. "Contact ahead," reported her scanner operator, Lieutenant Dave Russell. 3 transport ships with minimal escort. Sarah smiled grimly. Perfect. All ships. Attack pattern Chaos 7. Her raiders scattered in seemingly random directions, then converged on the enemy from 12 different angles at once. The Zephyrian escorts tried to coordinate their defense, but there was no pattern to defend against Dot in minutes. All 3 transports were burning wrecks drifting through space. The escort ships fled, carrying news of another impossible human victory. Back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Chun worked in her laboratory with growing excitement. She had finally figured out the secret of Zephyrian technology, and it was simpler than anyone had imagined. "They're energy beings," she explained to Dr. Paul Richardson. "They understand force fields and power flows perfectly. But they think of solid matter as just another form of energy." "What does that mean for us?" "It means they can't really understand physical objects the way we do. Watch this." Lisa activated a device she had built from captured alien technology. It created a field of random quantum fluctuations, the kind of chaos that happened naturally around human technology. On the screen, a piece of Zephyrian equipment began to malfunction wildly. Lights flashed in random patterns. Systems shut down and restarted for no reason. "Our technology is naturally chaotic," Lisa continued. "We use friction, combustion, mechanical systems, all things that create quantum interference. The aliens can't predict or counter it because it's genuinely random." This discovery led to humanity's greatest breakthrough. Dr. Paul Richardson designed new weapons that deliberately created chaos fields. Commander Elena Rodriguez volunteered to test them in her squadron of modified fighters. The first battle using chaos weapons was a complete surprise to the Zephyrians. Elena's ships flew into combat with their new devices active. Everywhere they went, alien systems began failing randomly. "This is impossible," War Commander Zix Terran said as he watched the battle recordings. "Their weapons have no targeting systems, no guidance computers. How are they hitting anything?" His aide studied the data carefully. "Sir, I think the chaos is the weapon. It's making our ships malfunction." Zix Terran realized he was facing something unprecedented. The humans had weaponized unpredictability itself. On the Zephyrian capital world, Supreme Commander Vex Thala faced a crisis she had never imagined. The archive minds, the preserved consciousness of 100 conquered species, were no longer giving her advice. Instead, they were asking questions. "Why do the humans refuse our order?" asked the mind of Emperor Calx from the Thorian Republic. "What is the value of chaos over peace?" wondered Queen Zilara of the Mephetic Collective. For the first time in centuries, the archive minds were thinking new thoughts instead of just remembering old ones. Vex Thala found this deeply disturbing. Meanwhile, Admiral Ryan Tucker was planning humanity's boldest strategy yet. Instead of just defending, he wanted to attack the very heart of the Zephyrian Empire. "It's suicide," General Patricia Wells argued. During the strategy meeting, "We don't have the ships or firepower for a direct assault on their capital." "We don't need ships," Tucker replied. "We need something they can't predict or counter. We need to be more human than we've ever been before." Dr. Marcus Webb had spent months studying Zephyrian psychology through captured records. What he had learned gave him a crazy idea. "What if we don't fight them at all?" he suggested. "What if we do something they literally cannot comprehend?" Tucker listened as Webb explained his plan. It was insane, impossible, and completely illogical, which made it perfect for fighting the Zephyrians. Captain Jake Morrison's ship, the New Horizon, had been modified with every chaos weapon and unpredictable system humanity could devise. His mission was to reach the Zephyrian capital and deliver a message that would change everything. "Are you sure about this plan?" asked his communications officer, Pete Davis. "No," Jake admitted, "but that's what makes it perfect. If I'm not sure, they definitely won't be." The human fleet began its approach to the Zephyrian capital system. It was a small force by galactic standards. 50 human ships against thousands of alien defenders. But Admiral Tucker wasn't trying to win a battle. He was trying to win a war through sheer impossibility. War Commander Zix Terran detected the human approach and prepared his defenses. "Finally," he said, "they're going to fight us properly." But as the human fleet got closer, something strange happened. Instead of forming attack formations, the human ships began broadcasting on all frequencies. Not weapons fire or demands for surrender. They were broadcasting music. "What are they doing?" Zix Terran demanded. His communications officer looked confused. "Sir, they're sending us ... songs, stories, art, cultural information." The broadcast included everything from human symphonies to children's lullabies, poetry and paintings, mathematical equations and philosophical debates. The complete chaotic, beautiful mess of human civilization. Supreme Commander Vexthyla received the transmission in her palace and felt something she had never experienced before. The humans weren't trying to conquer or destroy. They were trying to share. This is their weapon? She asked herself. Cultural exchange? But as she listened to the human music and viewed their art, something changed in her energy patterns. The rigid order that had defined her existence for millennia began to shift. She started to understand why the archive minds were asking questions. Humans weren't just chaos. They were creative chaos. They took disorder and made it into beauty. They turned uncertainty into art and unpredictability into strength. Jake Morrison's ship slipped through the Zephyrian defenses while every alien in the system was trying to understand the cultural bombardment. He reached the capital planet and sent his personal message directly to Vexthyla. "We don't want to destroy you," Jake's message said. "We don't want to conquer your empire. We just want to be free to choose our own path. But if you force us to fight, we'll show this galaxy that some things are worth dying for." For the first time in her existence, Vexthyla felt doubt. Not about her power or her empire's strength, but about whether strength was enough. The human fleet retreated without firing a shot. They had accomplished something no military force in galactic history had ever done. They had made the Zephyrian Empire question itself. War Commander Zix Terran was furious. "They made fools of us. We should pursue them and destroy every ship." But Vexthyla was quiet. The human cultural transmission had awakened something in her that she didn't understand. The archive minds were changing too, becoming more active and curious. "Perhaps," she said slowly, "we need to reconsider our methods." In human space, Admiral Tucker received Jake's report with satisfaction. The impossible plan had worked. They hadn't defeated the Zephyrian Empire through force, but they had planted something more powerful than any weapon. They had planted doubt. Dr. Lisa Chan monitored alien communications and detected the changes immediately. "The Zephyrians are arguing among themselves," she reported. "Their empire is becoming unstable." Tucker nodded. "Then it's time for the final phase. If we're going to end this war, we need to give them a choice they've never had to make before." The stage was set for the final confrontation between order and chaos, between peaceful slavery and dangerous freedom. 6 months had passed since the battle at Haven Prime. Captain Jake Morrison crouched behind a broken wall on an abandoned space station, watching alien guards patrol the corridors ahead. His stealth mission was dangerous, but the information they might find here could save humanity. "How many guards?" whispered Sergeant Kelly Brooks beside him. "3 that I can see. Jake replied quietly. But there might be more. This was a Zephyrian research station. Jake's team had spent weeks getting here without being detected. If they were caught, the war might end before humanity had a real chance to fight Dr. Lisa Chun, monitored there. Progress from the human ship hidden in the asteroid field nearby. She had studied alien technology for months now, learning how their crystal ships and energy weapons worked. What she had discovered was both encouraging and terrifying. The aliens are definitely studying us, she told Dr. Marcus Webb, the team's military strategist, but they're also confused by us. Every report I've decoded shows they can't understand human behavior. Marcus nodded. That's good. Confusion is better than understanding when you're fighting a superior enemy. On the station, Jake's team moved carefully through the dark corridors. The Zephyrians had built this place to study conquered species, but they had never expected intruders. Their security was designed to keep prisoners in, not enemies out. Captain, called tech specialist Maria Lopez from her position at a computer terminal. I'm into their main database. You need to see this. Jake hurried over to where Maria was working. Her face was pale as she translated the alien files. What is it? Jake asked. Sir, it's not just a research station. It's a museum. They keep records of every species they've conquered. Not just information, but actual preserved minds. The screen showed hundreds of alien faces. Each one belonged to a different species, and each one was labeled with a date of conquest. Some were recent, others were thousands of years old. They don't just defeat other species, Maria continued. They preserve them, like keeping butterflies in a collection. Jake felt sick. This was what the Zephyrians wanted to do to humanity. Turn them into exhibits in some cosmic museum. He looked at the faces on the screen and made a silent promise to every one of them. Meanwhile, on the Zephyrian capital world, Supreme Commander Vexthala was having a problem she had never experienced before. The archive minds, the preserved, consciousness of conquered species, were giving her contradictory advice about the humans. Destroy them quickly. Advise the mind of Executor Thane from the Kratari Empire. Any delay allows resistance to grow. But another voice disagreed. Study them first, suggested the preserved consciousness of Queen Zilara from the Mephetic Collective. Understanding leads to easier conquest. Vexthala had never heard the archive minds disagree before. For 1,000 years, they had provided perfect guidance for conquering new species. Now they seemed as confused as everyone else about the humans. What makes these creatures different? She asked. The archive minds were silent for a long moment. Finally, Executor Thane spoke. They do not follow patterns. Every species we have studied shows logical behavior under stress. Humans become more unpredictable when threatened. Back on the research station, Jake's team had found something even more disturbing. Dr. Marcus Webb was studying battle plans the aliens had used against other species. Look at this, he told Jake. Every species they've conquered used the same basic strategies. Defensive formations, logical retreats, negotiated surrenders when defeat became certain. And none of them ever did what we did at Haven Prime. None of them ever chose to destroy their own planets rather than surrender them. Jake remembered the reports from the outer colonies. When Zephyrian fleets had approached 3 human worlds, the colonists had evacuated everyone they could and then detonated antimatter bombs in the planet's core. The explosions had destroyed the worlds completely, leaving nothing for the aliens to claim. It was a desperate tactic, but it had worked. The psychological impact on the Zephyrians had been enormous. They were used to gaining something from every conquest. The humans were giving them nothing but empty space and radioactive debris. Download everything, Jake ordered. We need to get this information back to Admiral Tucker. But as they prepared to leave, alarms began ringing throughout the station. Zephyrian guards came running from all directions, their energy weapons glowing with deadly light. "Move!" Jake shouted. The team ran through the corridors as energy blasts scorched the walls around them. Maria carried the stolen data, while Kelly provided covering fire with her projectile rifle. The aliens' energy shields were designed to stop other energy weapons, not solid bullets. They reached their escape ship just as War Commander Zix Terran arrived with a full battalion of Zephyrian soldiers. He was the Dominion's new military leader, chosen specifically to deal with the human problem. "Surrender now," his voice boomed through the station speakers. "You cannot escape." Jake started the ship's engines. "Watch us," he muttered. The human ship launched from the station, just as Zephyrian fighters arrived to stop them. But Jake had learned something important during his months of fighting aliens. They expected logical behavior, so he did something completely illogical. Instead of running toward human space, he flew directly toward the Zephyrian capital system. "Sir," called his pilot, Lieutenant Tom Baker, "you're heading the wrong way." "No, I'm not," Jake replied. "They'll expect us to run home. They'll have ships waiting to intercept us, but they won't expect us to attack their home base." The tactic worked. Jake's small ship slipped past 3 Zephyrian fleets that were positioned to catch escaping humans. By the time the aliens realized what was happening, the human vessel was already jumping to hyperspace near their capital world. War Commander Zix Terran stared at his tactical display in disbelief. "They flew toward our strongest defenses?" "Yes, sir," his aide replied. "It makes no tactical sense." "No," Zix Terran said slowly. "It makes perfect sense if you're dealing with creatures that don't think like we do." "Back in human space, Admiral." Ryan Tucker read Jake's report with growing excitement and horror. The stolen data showed him 2 important things. First, the Zephyrians had never fought an enemy like humanity before. Second, they were getting frustrated and angry. "They're going to escalate," General Patricia Wells warned during the strategy meeting. Frustrated enemies make desperate choices. She was right. Within days, Zephyrian fleets began attacking human colonies with new brutality. Instead of trying to preserve populations for study, they were simply destroying everything. Billions of humans died in orbital bombardments that turned entire worlds into burning wastelands. But the attacks had an unexpected effect. Instead of breaking human morale, they made humanity more determined to fight. Survivors from destroyed colonies joined the human fleet in huge numbers. Every burned world created 1,000 new soldiers who had nothing left to lose. Captain Sarah Mitchell commanded one of the new human raider squadrons. Her ships were built from salvaged alien technology and human engineering. They were fast, cheap to build, and completely expendable. "Target their supply lines," Admiral Tucker had ordered. "Make them pay for every mile of space they control." Sarah's raiders struck at Zephyrian transport ships and supply bases. They couldn't match the aliens in major battles, but they could make the occupation of human space extremely costly. Dr. Lisa Chun made another breakthrough when she studied the wreckage from recent battles. The Zephyrians were adapting their technology to fight humans, but they were doing it wrong. "They're trying to make their weapons more powerful," she explained to the research team. "But power isn't our weakness. Unpredictability is their weakness." She began developing new human weapons that were deliberately inconsistent. Guns that fired different types of ammunition randomly. Ships with engines that changed their energy signature every few seconds. Missiles that flew in chaotic patterns instead of straight lines. The new weapons confused Zephyrian defense systems completely. Their computers couldn't calculate proper responses to threats that changed every moment. Supreme Commander Vexthela watched the war reports with growing concern. The humans were not behaving like any species in the Archive Mind's vast database. Instead of growing weaker under pressure, they seemed to be getting stronger. Perhaps, she said to her advisors, we need a new approach to this problem. War Commander Zix disagreed. We need more force. Overwhelming force. Destroy every human world until they surrender. But Vexthala was beginning to wonder if the humans would ever surrender. And if they wouldn't surrender, what did that mean for the future of the galaxy? Commander Kyle Mora had never seen anything like the human response. In her 300 years of service to the Zephyrian Dominion, every species had either surrendered immediately or begged for mercy. The humans had simply said no. Her fleet of 12 crystal ships moved through space toward the human colony at Haven Prime. Each ship was beautiful and deadly, made from living crystal that could bend light and energy. Her weapons could destroy planets. Her shields could stop any attack that primitive humans might try. Commander, said her aide, Zareth, we are approaching the human system. Their technology is very basic. This should take only minutes. Kyle Mora nodded. The humans had sent their refusal message 3 days ago. Supreme Commander Vexthala had been curious about these strange creatures, but she had ordered their quick destruction. No species could be allowed to refuse the Dominion's offer. Prepare weapons, Kyle Mora commanded. Target their largest cities. First, leave some survivors to spread word of what happens when species resist us. But as her fleet entered the human system, something unexpected happened. Alarms began ringing throughout her ship. Commander, Zareth called out. Energy signatures. Detected. The humans have ships waiting for us. On the main screen, Kyle Mora saw the human fleet. Ugly metal ships with weapons that looked crude and simple. She counted 30 human vessels against her 12. The humans clearly thought numbers would. Help them. How amusing, Kyle Mora said. They want to fight. Show them why the Dominion rules the galaxy. The battle began immediately. Kyle Mora's ships fired beams of pure energy that could cut through solid rock. The first human ship exploded in a brilliant flash, then the second. The third tried to run, but was destroyed before it could escape. But something was wrong. The human ships were not fighting like other species. Instead of staying in formation and using proper tactics, they scattered in all directions. Some flew straight at the Zephyrian ships, like they wanted to crash into them. Others hid behind asteroids and fired strange projectiles. Colonel Amy Foster commanded the human ground defenses on Haven Prime. She watched the space battle from her command center deep underground. Human ships were dying, but they were also doing something no other species had ever done. They were hurting the aliens. Activate the orbital platforms, she told her husband, Engineer Ben Foster. All of them. Ben's hands flew over his controls. High above the planet, hidden satellites came to life. They had been built in secret over the past year, ever since humans had started wondering about hostile aliens. Each satellite carried tungsten, rods the size of telephone poles. Firing sequence initiated, Ben reported. The satellites began dropping their cargo. The metal rods fell toward the Zephyrian ships at incredible speed. When they hit the crystal hulls, the impact was devastating. One alien ship cracked in half. Another spun out of control. Its beautiful crystal exterior shattered. Commander Kyle Mora could not believe what she was seeing. How are they doing this? Their weapons are primitive metal projectiles. Lieutenant Commander Steve Adams piloted his fighter toward the largest alien ship. His craft was tiny compared to the crystal giant, but he had a plan. The other human? Pilots thought he was crazy, but Steve knew it was the only way. This is Adams, he said into his radio. Tell my wife I love her. He pushed his fighter's engines to maximum and aimed straight for the alien ship's glowing energy core. The Zephyrians tried to shoot him down, but Steve's small craft was too fast and unpredictable. He smashed through their outer defenses and crashed directly into their power source. The explosion lit up the entire system. When the light faded, Both Steve's fighter and the alien ship were gone. Dr. Lisa Chun watched the battle from her laboratory ship at the edge of the system. She was studying the alien technology, trying to understand how it worked. What she discovered amazed her. "These Zephyrians," she said to her assistant, Dr. Paul Richardson, "they're not like us at all. They're made of pure energy, just controlling crystal and metal bodies." "What does that mean?" Paul asked. "It means they think differently. They understand energy and force fields, but solid matter confuses them. Look at how they fight. Perfect formations, predictable patterns. They can't understand why our pilots are flying in random directions." The battle raged for 6 hours. Half. The human fleet was destroyed, but they had also taken down 4 alien ships. More importantly, they had learned something valuable. The mighty Zephyrian Dominion could be hurt. Admiral Ryan Tucker arrived with reinforcements, just as the remaining alien ships began to retreat. His flagship, the Liberty, was the largest human warship ever built. It was still much smaller than the alien vessels, but it carried something special: nuclear missiles. "Fire everything," Tucker ordered. The missiles streaked toward the retreating aliens. The Zephyrians tried to stop them with energy beams, but the crude human weapons were too simple for their advanced defenses to handle properly. 2 more alien ships were damaged before they could escape. Commander Kyle Mora's ship limped away from the battle. Half her fleet was gone. The other half was damaged. She had never experienced anything like this in 3 centuries of conquest. How? She asked herself. How did primitive creatures do this to us? Her aide, Zareth, was studying the battle recordings. "Commander, I think I understand. These humans don't fight like other species. They're chaotic, unpredictable. Our combat systems are designed for logical opponents." Kyle Mora thought about this. Every species the Dominion had conquered fought the same way. Organized formations, logical tactics, predictable responses to threats. The humans did none of these things. They fought like wild animals, throwing themselves at superior enemies without fear. But there was something else, something that worried her more than human tactics. "They chose to fight," she said quietly. "Commander, every other species we've encountered either surrendered or tried to hide. These humans chose to fight. Even knowing they would lose, they chose to fight." Back on Haven Prime, Colonel Amy Foster surveyed the damage. The human colony had lost thousands of people, but they had survived their first battle with the galaxy's greatest empire. More importantly, they had won. "Send a message to all human worlds," she told her communication officer. "Tell them we can hurt these aliens. Tell them we can win." Dr. Lisa Chun was already working on new weapons based on what she had learned during the battle. The Zephyrians were powerful, but they had weaknesses. Humanity just needed to be smart, enough and tough enough to exploit those weaknesses. Admiral Tucker looked at the wreckage floating in space around Haven Prime. Human and alien ships drifted together in the darkness. The first battle was over, but the war was just beginning. "They'll be back," he said to Colonel Foster. "Next time they'll bring more ships." Amy nodded. "Then we'd better be ready for them." The humans had fired the first shot in a war that would change the galaxy forever. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship, the New Horizon. Outside the windows, stars stretched across the black space like tiny diamonds. He had been exploring these outer regions for 3 months now, looking for new worlds where humans could build colonies. Jake was tired but happy. His crew had found 2 good planets in the past week. Both had clean water and air that humans could breathe. Soon, families would live there and build new homes among the stars. "Captain," called his communication officer, Pete Davis. "I'm getting a strange signal. It's not from any human ship." Jake walked over to Pete's station. The young man looked worried as he adjusted his controls. Strange lights flashed on his screen in patterns Jake had never seen before. "Can you make sense of it?" Jake asked. "I think so, sir. The computer is trying to translate it now." Pete pressed more buttons. "It's definitely not human language, but our systems are learning the pattern." The bridge fell quiet. Everyone knew this moment would come someday. Humans had been spreading across space for 50 years, but they had never met another intelligent species before. Jake felt his heart beat faster. "Translation complete, sir," Pete said in a quiet voice. The main screen lit up with words that made Jake's blood run cold. "Attention, primitive species. We are the Zephyrian Dominion. We have ruled the stars for 1,000 years. Your kind will surrender to our authority immediately. You will become part of our empire. Any resistance will result in your complete destruction. You have one rotation of your planet to decide." Jake stared at the message. Around him, his crew looked scared and confused. Dr. Lisa Chun, the ship's scientist, stepped forward. "Captain, our long-range sensors show massive ships moving toward human space. They're bigger than anything we've ever built." Jake nodded slowly. This was bad. Very bad. Humans had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they had their answer, and it was not what anyone had hoped for. "Pete, send a message to Admiral Tucker at Haven Prime. Tell him we have first contact, and it's not friendly." "Yes, sir." Jake looked at his crew. These were good people. Engineers, scientists, explorers. They had left Earth to find new worlds and give humanity a future among the stars. Now the future was in danger. Hours passed. Jake paced the bridge while his crew worked. They sent more messages back to human space, warning everyone about the aliens. Dr. Lisa Chun studied the alien transmission over and over, trying to learn about these Zephyrians. "Captain," she said finally, "I've been analyzing their signal. These beings are very advanced. Their technology is based on energy manipulation in ways we don't understand. But there's something else." "What?" "They sound surprised, like they didn't expect to find us here." Jake thought about this. Maybe they thought this area of space was empty. Or maybe they're used to species that give up without a fight. Admiral Ryan Tucker's reply came 12 hours later. Jake read the message on his private screen, then called his senior officers to the meeting room. "I've heard from command," Jake told them. "Admiral Tucker has reviewed the alien demands." Everyone waited. Jake could see the hope and fear in their faces. "The Admiral's response is simple," Jake continued. "We respectfully decline their offer. Humanity will remain free." Silence filled the room. Then Engineer Ben Foster spoke up. "Sir, are we going to fight them? These aliens have been conquering space for 1,000 years. We've barely been out here for 50. Jake looked at each of his officers. "I won't lie to you. This looks impossible. They have better ships, better weapons, and more experience. But Admiral Tucker is right. Some things are worth fighting for, even when you can't win." Dr. Lisa Chun nodded. "My grandfather used to tell stories about Earth's old wars. He said the hardest battles were always fought by people who had everything to lose and nothing to gain except their freedom." "What are your orders, Captain?" asked Colonel Amy Foster, the ship's security chief. "We continue our mission," Jake said. "We find those new worlds and help humans settle them. But now we also prepare for war. Every human colony needs to be ready. Every ship needs to be armed. Every person needs to understand that we're not just building a new life out here anymore. We're fighting for the right to exist." Pete Davis raised his hand. "Sir, should we send a reply to the aliens?" Jake smiled grimly. "Yes, send this message. We thank you for your offer, but humans choose their own path. We wish you well, but we will not surrender our freedom. That's it? Pete asked. That's it. Simple and clear. As Pete sent the message, Jake looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, alien ships were moving toward human space. Soon there would be war. Humans would die. Ships would burn. Colonies might be destroyed. But humanity would not go quietly into the darkness. They would fight with everything they had. They would show these Zephyrians that some species could not be conquered, only destroyed. And if humanity had to die, they would make sure the entire galaxy remembered that humans had chosen to die free rather than live as slaves. Jake Morrison had been an explorer. Now he was a soldier in a war that would decide the fate of his entire species.